Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa ashabi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And welcome to another episode of In the Comments. I'm not sure how many comments I'll be able to get in during this episode. There was one comment that I believe, I felt was important, and it required a little more research and asking around to figure out how to address this comment. So inshallah ta'ala, we'll start with this first comment. And if there's any time remaining, inshallah, we'll do more comments, inshallah. So the comment is from On a Journey 519. And the comment reads, "What is he on about? Egypt is so unsafe. How many people's organs have been stolen, and sexual harassment?" This comment was under a video from Brother Dawood Hill, and it was, the thumbnail read, "Petty Theft versus Pedophilia." Let's talk about this for a second, because there was a video being passed around. Actually, before, I read this comment before, but then after that, I had a discussion with a friend of mine, and he disagreed with some of our approaches towards talking about the Muslim countries. There are problems. They have societal ills. It's not Jannah. I think I mentioned this before. I think we all know that. And generally, when I talk about these topics, I talk about it from a cultural perspective, not necessarily what's happening in the society or what's happening in the underbelly of society. So to give you an example of this, we can talk about male and female relationships. So male and female relationships in the Muslim world is handled differently than male and female relationships in the non-Muslim world, meaning that it's not uncommon to find somebody telling their child that you're the girlfriend or boyfriend of this child, or it's not uncommon to reach your teenage years, or even before that, even middle school years, and have a boyfriend or have a girlfriend, and even be engaged in sexual activity at those ages. There are rules for that, and every country is different, but a lot of these things are just cultural practices, and it's nothing strange. As a matter of fact, if you say that your son or daughter is waiting to become married, to be married in order to have sexual relations, some people will look at it, as something strange, and even some Muslim families will look at it as strange. Like you're a virgin, that's strange, So it's there are some cultural things there that we talk about, and really when you talk about virginity in most Muslim countries, I can't say all, but when you talk about virginity, it's something that is supposed to be there. That's supposed to be the case. That's the default position. Now, people will argue and say, no, they're doing this, they're doing that. Yeah, they're doing this and doing that, but we're not talking about what individuals are doing, going against what the cultural norms are. Okay, so let's deal with this comment. Okay, there was a video or a short video, or somebody clipped it out of a lecture by a brother. I think his name is Bro Ayman. That's what I think his name is. And I saw the clip, and the brother was talking about a situation where a brother was in a taxi with his wife, and he asked the taxi to stop so he can go and do something. The husband got out of the taxi, and when he got out of the taxi pulled off with his wife. So the brother went around to the police stations and asking about his wife and where she was, and some days went past, and he finally decided to go to the morgue. And at the morgue, he found his wife, and she was, obviously they killed her and took her organs out. I asked about this. I'm not sure if I heard this story before, but then I ran it across a few people. I ran it across my family, and my family said, yeah, she heard about this, and it's possible that she even knew the sister that this happened to. It's a possibility. I ran it across another brother I knew that's been here for a while, and he said, yeah, he's heard about stories like this. So the first thing is that this is something that well, I'm not even sure. I'm not absolutely sure that it happened or if we have the story right. So I don't want to be disrespectful to the brother that if this did happen to, that he lost his wife this way. I know it's traumatizing, but that wasn't what the video was about anyway. The video was about just dealing with hardships from what I understand. And I could be corrected. Anybody who knows this can correct me in the comments. But I want to talk to you from the perspective of somebody who's lived in Egypt since 2002. But I've been around other places, but I'm just telling you, I've been in Egypt for a while. I know a lot of people that have come through Egypt. And I want to say that, number one, organ trade in Egypt is a thing. That's real. Now, you have a few different situations about this. The first situation is people selling their organs so they can pay off debts and try to travel to be smuggled to the West. That's a real thing. So you have a refugee or you have a person traveling to Egypt, and then someone comes to them and says, look, man, if you give your kidney, you can get $5,000. And then you can take that $5,000 and get on a boat and go somewhere else. This is the first case where it's not necessarily that somebody is kidnapping somebody and stealing the organ, but it's more or less like a person is trying to sell the organ in order to go to Europe. This is one situation. And you can look it up. Don't just take my word for it. Go ahead and research it a little bit, and you'll find that Egypt is a big, what or used to be, it maybe still is, a big player in this organ market. So that's a fact. That's true. The second way that this happens is that someone is kidnapped and they're basically put to sleep some kind of way, and then they wake up and they have a scar and somebody took the organs. That's another case. The third case is the case that they are saying about this person, that they were killed and then found in the morgue. This is another case as well. So, and then you can find that it was a recent situation where there was someone in Kuwait, a youngster in Kuwait, that had put out something on the dark web that he would pay such and such amount of pounds, like £1 million. £1 million is like $20,000 or something like that, for different organs if he can get the organs. So this guy, the guy that read that message, went and abducted a child and took the organs, killed the child. And this is a case that happened recently. This is maybe in June of 2024. So these things are happening. It's a fact. The odd thing about it is that this situation that people say happened with this brother and his wife, this is the main story. And this story is at least 10 years old. It's not a recent story. So the fact that this is your example, a 10-year-old example, not to belittle that and not to not have any, not have a heart about what happened, because it would devastate anybody. Anybody would be devastated if that happened to them, and especially if it happened to their wife. And it was hard for me to even talk about it, because when I talked about it to my family members and I talked about it to other people, you know, they were really they were really reluctant to discuss the issue because of the sensitivity. Because if that actually happened, then that's something that you can't, like, you know, reject somebody's, you know, story and that happened to them, and then you're insensitive. So it's not about that. So, but along with that, to go on with this this topic of organ harvesting and these things, I would argue that if someone says Egypt is unsafe because of this incident, and maybe they know more incidents, they didn't mention it, you know, but this particular incident, this was what was going around, the incident of the brother and his wife. If this is the incident that makes you declare that Egypt is unsafe, then I would argue that that's not enough. It's not enough, because there are things that could be done to prevent this. And even we know of a case where someone was, one of family friends we're at it like this little outdoor grocery store thing, and someone tried to take the young boy's sister, and she got away, but then they end up taking the boy. And then as the truck pulled off, after a few, blocks or whatever, the boy jumped out and walked back. What they wanted or why they wanted to abduct these children, I have no idea. But this is something, it happens, and it is something to be aware of. And then there are also stories where people couldn't find their children. And you'll see these mainly in groups, in the little WhatsApp groups or Telegram groups. You'll find someone saying, I don't know where my daughters are. The last time we saw them was here or there, or I don't know where my son is, or the taxi guy took my son, he didn't come back, and these type of stories. But most of these stories end with them finding the child. It's a story behind it. The child got lost, and then they find the child with a neighbor or something like that. So this happens. It even happened with my son when he was young. One of my sons, we were praying Tarawih, and I left him on the women's side, and he didn't want to be on the women's side. He wanted to be with the men. So after the prayer, we were like, where's Abdullah? We couldn't find him. So we just went down the street screaming his name, Abdullah, and finally a man came around with Abdullah in his hand, and he gave Abdullah to us. So you can't walk around thinking that everybody's going to run away with you, abduct you, and take your kidneys or something like that. This is not realistic.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is your brother Hamza from the Make Hijra channel. Now, many of you have requested consulting services from us, so we have created a page just for you.
So I want to compare and contrast. I want to say, okay, I would say with this type of thinking, I say, listen, do not put your kids in school. And you would say, I said, if you're in the U.S., do not put your kids in school. It's unsafe. Why is it unsafe? Because almost every year, somebody loads up a gun, goes into a school, and starts shooting up the school. This is what's happening in the States. Almost every year, this happens, a massacre in a school. So with that same logic, wouldn't you say that you shouldn't enroll your children in school because it's unsafe? So these stories that we're talking about, okay, this is a 10-year-old story. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on this sister that if that happened to her, and then also may he make it easy for the brother and make it a compensation for him, Yawm al-Qiyamah. I mean, that this is what we hope. But at the same time, if we apply this logic, why then are we living in the West? When I can name personal stories of people that I knew that one brother found his daughter in an apartment dead, and nobody knows why. People have their assumptions. Maybe she had an overdose on a drug, something like this. These kids are getting a hold of pills and drugs, and they're getting high. And these are Muslim children we're talking about. So the argument is the same. Like, why are you living there and you just lost a child? And that happened. And before that, there was another young man that died. And everybody's like, what happened? Nobody wants to say what happened. And this is in my small community. So I can make the same argument. I'll tell you one last story. My family and I were driving down the street in Milwaukee, in Wisconsin, in the USA. And we hit a stoplight, and we were next to a gas station. All of a sudden, you heard shots, not one shot, shots. Pop, 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 pop. And then I look to my right, and it's right there. This guy is shooting inside the car. Pop, 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 and my family's right there. My family's in the car with me, my wife and my young children. It's for me to say that, okay, well, it's still safe here. It doesn't make any sense. If we use the same logic, yeah, here in the Muslim world, they have crime. If you want to find the underbelly, they have it. If you want to go find alcohol, if you want to find drugs, if you want to find prostitution, if you want to find anything that you're looking for, you can find it. Knives, guns, you can find it. If you're not looking for it, you won't find it. That's the thing about it. It's hard to find. Another mistake that we make, and I'm going to wrap this topic up. Another mistake that we make is that we lose our street sense when we come to the Muslim world. It's like we don't look over our backs. We're not paying attention to what's around us. And I made that mistake. I made that mistake by being on the phone. I'm talking to somebody. We're in a deep conversation. And all of a sudden, this guy comes up to me. And he's talking. And I'm like, man, get away from me. But he keep talking and I'm in my conversation. So he says, this is the move that we learned and this, that, and the other. So he touches me. And then I'm moving him away. And then when he goes, he finally leaves, I realized the guy, he took my wallet. So inshallah, if you choose the right places to go, which ties into understanding the environment that you're moving to, understanding where you're going to live, because these things happen in certain places. You have more criminal activity in areas where there are more poorer areas. I hate to say that. And it's funny. The funny thing about it is that if you live deep in a poor area, you're less likely to be a victim of a crime, because generally they go outside of their areas to commit the crimes. So anyway, the long story short is that what we can learn from this is, number one, is to be on guard. You always should be on guard wherever you are. Be on guard. See where your family is. Don't let your family just run out in the streets and go anywhere. You should be very protective over them. If you're a man and you have sons and the sons can accompany the daughters, this is a best practice anywhere you are. It's just to be keen on your safety. Now, I asked my family to post in some of the WhatsApp groups, the sisters' WhatsApp groups in particular. And we did a poll and we asked, do you believe Egypt is safe? In your opinion, something along these lines. We'll post these polls as I'm talking. And you'll find overwhelmingly that the sisters responded that it's safe. So it was very safe, not safe, something like this. And majority of people said that it's safe. Now, another thing too is that I guess we need to clarify this. We're not promoting coming to Egypt, by the way. We just promote moving your family to better environments where they can thrive, where you can maintain your family, where you can raise your children in a good way. And we pray that they become of the pious people. Get your copy of the Hijrah Handbook at book.makehijrah.com. Okay, so if anyone has any questions about that particular topic, but this goes anywhere. Anywhere, if you move to the Muslim world, if you live there, if you plan on vacationing there or anything like that, this applies, that you should be keen on your personal safety. And don't just think that you're in the Muslim world, that all of a sudden there's no crime, there's no problems, no, it doesn't, it's not like this. But what you will find is that you will feel, in my opinion, a degree of safety that you may not find in the Western world. And a lot of times safety is not just some physical thing happening to you or something bad happening to you that's like this to that degree. It can be things that you're not paying attention to. It can be influence. It can be that you left your child on TikTok or on YouTube or in this place or in that place, and they're there being influenced by the place you're at. Because generally speaking, if you're on these apps in different countries, you get that country's feed, generally speaking. There's ways around it, of course, but generally speaking, you're going to get the country's feed, and you're going to have to get around it some type of way in order to understand what's going on in a different place. So if you're in the States, if you're in the UK, that's primarily the feed that you're going to get. You're going to get that information. So even leaving your child or leaving your family in front of those things can have an impact on them and have them open up to different things that they're not aware of, and they don't understand what can happen by getting these types of informations. It can put doubt into them. It can make them start arguing. It can make them even. I've heard people say that some young children don't believe in Islam. They don't believe in it, but they only go around their parents just to, say, mashallah, alhamdulillah, all that, just to please their parents. But in their heart, in their mind, they don't even believe in the religion because they've been influenced by atheism and influenced by ideas that make them doubt or put doubt in their mind about the religion. And then there's nothing there to counter that. There's no effort to counter that. So they just start to say, okay, this is a satirul awwalin or something like that. These are stories of old or whatever. And then they take that as like fables or whatever the case. So anyway, so that's that. Let's look at some of the comments, some other comments. This comment is from Jamil Johnson, and it says, does the average person even know the rulings and conditions of Hijrah? In reality, that is, in my opinion, where people need to begin. As Imam Bukhari mentioned, al-ilm qabla al-qawli wal-amal. Knowledge comes before speech and action. Now, this has a number of replies to it, and I would just start with the main comment, and then anybody who wants to know more can look at the replies and the discussion about it. I would say this: we've been saying that from the beginning. That's why we don't get on the channel and say Hijra is wajib or everybody must leave. You can't really blanket statement that. You really have to look at your own situation, and you have to go to someone you can trust that has knowledge that can give you a case for your particular situation, because there could be anything that would prevent you from doing that. Or it may be better for you to move from your local area to another area that's in the same country. That could be the case. But it's a must for you to understand this issue of Hijrah and what it entails and what is obligatory upon you. And that's individual. Every individual has to look at his own case and find someone that he can talk to about it, and make sure that the person, of course, is not biased. They give you like a unbiased opinion about your situation in Hijrah. So I agree with this, that, yeah, you should know the ruling of Hijrah and how it applies to you. Some people don't want to know. Some people are happy where they are and they don't want to go anywhere. Some people are overzealous about it, and they want to, they don't care about any conditions that may need to be met before they try to make Hijrah, and they just show up in a place and they have, $10 in their pocket. It could be that. So our goal here with this channel is just to show you that the Muslim world is a place that is an option. That's what we're saying. People are here. They're already here and they're coming. So our goal, inshallah ta'ala, is to make you aware of what's required to make Hijrah, how much it costs, what's the life like, what are the people like, what are the situations there, how are the expats living, etc., so that you can make an informed decision after you've already decided that you want to make Hijrah. And then also, we would like to build a case for Hijrah. Like, maybe you're not considering these things. Some people are busy. Some people are they're oblivious to what's going on around them. So we also would like to make note of this is what's happening. This is the culture. People are not in the culture like that. A lot of people my age or older are not in the culture like that. But I was born there and raised there, so I have a different perspective. But you have somebody that immigrated there, have their children there, have this. Next thing you know, the child is in jail, the daughter is this, that, and the other. So it's very important from that perspective to understand what Hijrah means and how it applies to your situation.